is the halftime show with Omar Aduri.
On Pulse 95.
Salam and welcome to the halftime show with Omar Duri on Pulse 95 Radio in the heart of Sharjah. I am delighted to have my guest on the show, a rugby player, a coach, and just a legend in the game. He's been in the game for a while. Zion Afele, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate you.
Listen, we go way back, and obviously I'm a fan of yours as well as a brother of yours, so I am biased regardless. But to these guys over here, they are listening to you for the first time in the UAE, which, by the way, you need to come and visit. Just putting it out there on
100%.
live radio.
I got you.
Zion, to you, man, when did you get into fitness?
Yeah, good question, man. For me, man, to be quite honest, I've always been surrounded by fitness. Like, as far as I can remember, man, like when I was able to start running, my dad put me into rugby straight away, and I hated it. I hated it because I think it was too rough for me, as a 5-year-old. And yeah, over the years you learn about it, but I've always been surrounded by fitness. At the age of 8, I grew up as a kickboxer boxer, and all the way up through high school. And then, I think in terms of like getting into fitness, I think specifically was when I was like 15, when I got really serious into rugby. And my brother-in-law, Andrew, who you've met in France, used to take me to the gym with him. And that's kind of like where I've like learned the foundation of lifting weights.
Mm. That's interesting you say that because, genetically, you guys are just built different. When you tell me that at the age of 15, you started lifting weights, oh, you 6 foot by then?
You know what, man? I don't know what happened to me because like I've got 2 older brothers who are just like mountains, man. And then there's me who look like the skinny twig. And a lot of people don't believe that because the size that I am now, but the size that I was like when I was 15, man, I was like maybe like don't want to say this, but like an Ethiopian, man. I was like really, 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 really skinny, man. I had like ribs, and then yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the things that has always marked you as a top coach and a top trainer is your evolution in fitness and the fact you can adapt to fitness. So this is the best time to ask you this question now. What is fitness to you?
Yeah, fitness is such a broad term, man. But for me, right now, at this moment, because I think my term of fitness changes as the seasons go on. But for me, right now, just off top of the dome, I think living a healthy, balanced, or having a healthy, balanced mind, body, and soul, have the ability to be able to move freely with no reservation or limitation and be able to do the movements that you're able to do whenever you want, and having the ability to maximize your own potential and helping others maximize their full potential. So I think for me right now, at the top of the dome, that's kind of like where I stand with fitness, just in my opinion. But as I mentioned, like it changes as the seasons go.
It's fantastic. One of the other things that still kept you relevant in the game now, and I see your training sessions on Instagram, and we'll put your Instagram handle at the end so people can see what I'm talking about.
I appreciate that.
But what is your why? Why do you still do what you do at the highest level?
I love it, man. It's just my passion. I've always been surrounded by fitness. It's I just love helping others. You know what I mean? When I got into the game, it was never about the money. Money never motivated me, man. It was always about the person. And if they were able to leave with a smile on their face, I knew I did my job. And that to me is worth more than any type of, currency. So seeing people achieve their goals and succeed and, building that relationship with people is such an important kind of concept to me when it comes to my why, if it's, in terms of fitness.
Top answer. And that was just the first segment here on the halftime show on Pulse 95 Radio. We'll take a quick break. And when we get back, we're diving into more with Zion Afele on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95.
This is the halftime show with Omar Aduri.
On Pulse 95.
Salam and welcome back to the halftime show with Omar Aduri. If you did miss the show and you're kicking yourself for missing the show, don't worry, you can catch all of our episodes on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, if you prefer a podcast, or if you prefer a visual, head over to our YouTube channel, Pulse 95 Radio. You get to see these amazing guests like this guy right here. Zion Afele is in the building. Zion, welcome back, man.
Thank you, my brother.
Zion, listen, one of the things I remember sitting down, and we're going to paint this picture to the audience right now, sitting down at the gym in the sauna. You and I talking about aspirations, right? And you said to me, man, I want to make it as a pro rugby player. And we were talking about it. And you were always a rugby player. So I knew that. I could tell by the way you trained. But you went through a lot to achieve that. Can you tell me more about the process of you actually becoming a professional rugby player?
So obviously, a lot of hard work, dedication went into the craft of learning the skills of rugby. But being in teams where I was always surrounded by quality coaches and quality athletes who I've always done this as my career went on, I always surrounded myself with those athletes so I can learn from them and took the best out of them. But I've always just loved the sport of rugby. So my passion to play rugby was always to make it to the top. And I did anything and everything to try and achieve that.
Why rugby? You could have played any sport. I've seen you train. I've seen you compete. You could have played any sport. Why rugby?
That's all we knew. It's the only sport that we knew back then growing up. My dad loved it. My brothers played it. My brothers played at a pretty high level as well. And it was kind of just in our roots. You know what I mean? It's just in our genetics to play a sport as such as rugby, just because it's just so in our culture.
You say you say culture, you say roots. For me, when I look at Zion, I see so many different people, backgrounds, color, culture, race, religion, spirit, everything. I see all that through you. Can you tell me more about all those different influences and how it's kind of shaped you as a rugby player?
Yeah, in the Polynesian culture, in the Samoan culture, the religious belief is a big part of our as our culture. But being surrounded by those types of religions and people, I learned from them, and it molded me to the person that I am today, because I appreciate all of those people that I were teammates with or colleagues with, and gave me a better understanding of who they were as a person. So then I was able to conduct myself, properly around them.
Achievement-wise, you've achieved a lot in the game. What stands out to you?
Oh man, when you look back, achievement-wise in terms of rugby, I was able to play for my parents' home country, Samoa, 2004 and 2005. I represented the Polynesian team in the World Cup tournament in Italy. And then I represented the Polynesian team in France. So to be able to, represent my culture in the sport of rugby, was a great achievement. To be able to play the sport that I love in another country, England and France, and then coming to Canada and then ended up playing for Team Canada, was just showed that I still, had a little bit of juice left after I retired from being in Europe. Because when I came to Canada, after I retired from France, I fell back into the fitness industry, fell back on my degree, didn't play for 3.5 years. And then I ended up being the strength coach for a local rugby team here, and then ended up playing for that team. And then ended up winning the championship there, got selected to play for the, regional team, got player of the tournaments for that regional team. And then because of that, I was selected to play for Team Canada.
Wow.
And then that was all in the span of like 5 months. And then, so having not played for 3.5 years, to come back and play to make the national team and within 5 months, made me feel like, oh, maybe I still had a little bit of juice left. So then I ended up playing for another 3 years. but for me, like I'm constantly retiring. Every year I'm like, okay, I'm not going to play anymore. And then someone will call me up and be like, hey, we're short with players. Can you help out? And I'm like, no, but I'm already driving to them.
That Tom Brady factor.
Yeah, I just it's hard for me to say no. When you're being in the game for so long, you know what I mean. It's just hard to say goodbye. But now, when someone says, can you play? My bones break. So I don't. I'm good on this side on this side of the field.
Yeah, I have to also confess something to all those listeners on the halftime show. The only rugby match I've ever been to and I've ever supported, even on TV, is watching Zion play. And that was in, if I'm not mistaken, Albitoire in France.
Yeah, in France.
And that's the only rugby game I've ever been to. And it's the only rugby game I've ever supported anyone. And that was you. And it was one heck of an experience, I have to say. Do you remember that time?
That means a lot. Yeah, that means a lot, man. It was great to have. First of all, let's just take it back before you came to that game. But it was like more so the surprise that you gave me at the airport. We have a mutual friend, Inca, who got in touch with us and said that she wanted to come over and visit, but she didn't say that she was bringing a guest with her. So then when I came up to the airport to pick her up, man, I think I got that photo of that surprise. My face was like just so in shock. But when you came out, man, that was the icing on the cake. And then for you guys to be there to watch me play, oh man, meant a lot. Because you guys were there the same weekend. My sister and her husband came from Australia to watch me play. So to have family there, oh man, it just motivated me even more.
Yeah, you absolutely killed it. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put that photo in the episode.
yeah.
Probably not the photos afterwards with the police, but I'll put that photo.
Oh man, that was a classic.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this incredible interview with the man himself, Zion Afele, here on the Halftime Show on Pulse 95 Radio.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adouri.
On Pulse 95.
Salam and welcome back to the Halftime Show. We're having a good time here. I'm here with my brother, my friend, the athlete, the coach, the rugby player. Man, the talented Zion Afele is here on the show. We spoke about him getting into fitness, him getting into rugby. What is his why? So if you did miss the show, check out the segments earlier on the Halftime Show. Zion, I want to talk to you about challenges. Now, a lot of people always, they talk about success and they kind of skip out the juice part. And that is the part where people don't see. Talk to me about the kind of challenges you faced and how did you tackle them?
I heard this quote, well, not this quote, but I heard a ex-Marine on Instagram talking about what he used to do when he faced challenges. And excuse my language when I say this, but he said the fastest way to eat a shit sandwich is to eat it straight away. And that's so funny because that put it into perspective of how I've always thought, previous to me watching that. But I've always tried to just face it, because if I procrastinate and just keep putting it off, and then it builds and builds and builds, it's just gonna stress me even more. So usually what I do is try and attack it straight away. And if I fail, I fail. And then I'll get up and I'll try it again. And I'll just keep trying until, I get it right.
And have you always had that kind of mentality, or is that something you kind of developed recently?
Uh, I've always had the mentality, but I've kind of only gone with it more just recently.
And with that, you've said that, to avoid procrastination and things like that, you've kind of had to just kind of get through it. But how do you reset?
So every Sundays for me is my reset day. And there's a mountain over in Canada, just in Vancouver, called the Gross Grind. And it's just under 4Ks, but it's like a steep mountain. And every Sundays during the summer, me and a couple of dads here will go do it every morning. So we'll leave here at like 6 o'clock in the morning, try and be on the mountain by 7, and we climb this mountain, right? And the whole time when I'm climbing this mountain, I'm talking myself out of this. I'm trying to talk myself out of this, and I'm saying, why did I wake up at 6 o'clock to come onto this mountain to destroy myself? But for me, when I go and do this, a lot of people do this mountain because they want to lose weight and all that sort of stuff and build up their conditioning and whatnot. But for me, when I go and do this, I do this to strengthen up my mind, because there's nothing more challenging to my mental than this mountain. So every morning on Sundays, I'll get out of the city, get out of the pollution, get into the mountains, get into some fresh air, get into some nature, and I'll walk this, and I'll be talking myself out of this the whole time. And there's 4 quarters to it. And so I call it the 4 quarters of slaughter. And you're climbing up, and when you get to the first quarter, you're like, man, this is only the first quarter. And then you get up to the halfway, and you're like, I can't believe I'm only halfway. And you're like constantly talking yourself out, going, it's not too late to back out. It's not too late to back out. And then once you get a little bit higher, and then you get to the very top, man, you feel so accomplished. I feel like I achieved something, especially early in the morning. I accumulated a win. But my mind is now reset, because when I now take on my work week or my family week, I can now take it with an approach of like a calm mind, right? Because before, when I would never challenge myself or challenge my mental, if something came up, I'll react to it. I'll blow up on it, or I'll have some sort of like negative vibe or energy towards it. So now when I do this every Sunday, it resets my whole week, and it's just therapy for me. And then I come home. It's still early, and I can actually just get on with my day, get on with my week, and set my week up after I've come home from the mountain. If that, yeah.
That's, what, I was visualizing you doing that and the way that you are. And I have to say that from knowing you for a while back, even when you did have anxiety, it was hard for us to believe you did, because you carried, because of your aura, your energy has always been positive. So when I ask you these questions, it's good to see a different side of you, because it never appeared from the outside that you face that, although everyone faces that and everyone goes through these things. Do you have certain things that you do to eliminate like anxiety, and how do you embrace it? That makes sense.
Yeah, just going back to that quote I was saying, just eat a shit sandwich straight away. And for me, when I train, that's where I honestly solve my problems when I train. I've got to be in the gym. That's why when we were, coming up as trainers, we were always training, right? But yes, we wanted to, be athletic and, build muscle and speed and all that jazz. But, I was still having demons that I was trying to battle too, because I still needed to make it through to the next stages of rugby to make sure that I can, if I was going to get selected or not. Because when I went to, so I was supposed to, when I met my wife traveling, and then I was supposed to go straight to France and play. But because I met my wife traveling, I came to Canada, and I was only supposed to come here for 2 weeks. And then I missed my whole season. And the team that signed me, obviously you can imagine that how angry they were, right? And then because I did that, it kind of put me at the bottom again. So then when I came back to Europe, I had to like, try out, play, earn my respect back into playing again. So then when I was playing in England, when I got selected to go play for the Polynesian team in Italy. So then when I was in Italy, played that tournament, and then I got player of the tournament there. And then there was French scouts there. So they asked me if I were able to come over to France the following week to play for the Polynesian team there. So from Italy, came back to the UK, and then flew back to France the following week. Played in the tournament there, and then the coaches were like, "Don't we know you? Didn't we sign you and whatnot?" And I was like, "Yeah." Anyways, so they ended up giving me a contract, and I ended up coming back to France and playing in France. But I came back to, so when they did my assessment and did all, my fitness assessment and whatnot, I was actually a little bit too heavy. And they said, I need you to drop, get down from 96 to 92 kilos within like a week. So then when we were working at VA, because I was teaching spin, man, you can imagine when I was teaching spin, I was teaching it like so aggressively, because I needed to drop my weight down, and I needed to make sure that when I go back that I was hitting these requirements that the team needed me. But, just making a long story short, I had to make sure that when I was training to get back on this team, because if I didn't get back on this team, then it was me coming back to Australia. And for me, I wasn't going back to Australia. And then, and then the rest is history, right? I ended up staying in Europe for like 4 years, and then moved to Canada.
Amazing. And for those that don't know, by the way, he probably still is. And as you said, he's still playing whenever they tell him not to. One of the most phenomenal athletes I've ever worked with is Zion. And I say that honestly with my hand on my heart, because I got to watch someone like that at the gym every day, which actually enhanced my training because of this guy. So when he says these things, put it into context of the different levels in the game. We're going to take a quick break. And then once we get back, we've got our final segment. I can't believe it's almost full time on the halftime show. Hey, we're jamming here. Me and Zion, we're having a good time. So make sure you tune in for the last segment on the show right after the break.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adouri.
On 95.
Salam and welcome to the halftime show. One of the best things about being a host on the show is you get to invite some of the best people, and I mean the best people from around the world. And this guy right here, honestly, I told you last week, guys, I punch above my weight. Well, listen, I'm punching. Zion Afele is in the building. Zion, welcome to the show, man.
Man, you really know how to juice me up, man. That's man. You always do this. You do this all the time, man. You just get on here, even if we're on the conversation on the phone, man. You just know how to juice me up.
And listen, I speak facts, and I meant every word. I meant every word I said actually before we came onto the break. The thing is with me and Zion is we normally are joking 24/7. It's hardly serious. We can be serious, but it's hardly serious. The fact he hasn't sworn once on the show is great. And the other thing,
I know I'm terrible, man. I'm sorry.
No. The other thing is I genuinely meant everything I said about you, and I'm just lucky enough to be able to put it on this platform for everyone else to see, so we can always look back on the YouTube episode between us, and that would have been the first time you would have done something like this, and also the UAE to see what they're missing out on when I talk about Zion, because hopefully when he does come out to the UAE, and I say that because I'm trying to manifest it, he will be able to meet you guys, and you guys can ask him in real what he's up to these days. But I'll tell you something, Zion. You got a lot of things going on, obviously, and you've done so much, in the game. Where can we follow you at the moment? Are you active on social media? What are you up to these days?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Instagram at Samoan Strength Coach. I post up a lot of my videos, tips and training tips and whatnot on that platform. I am on Facebook. You can look for me at Zion Afele. That's really where I'm at with the social media platform. Also, if you guys are looking for like clothing merch,
Yo, I wanted to ask you. Hold on, wait.
okay,
That
sorry, my
hoodie,
bad.
yeah. One second, one second. That hoodie, yeah. I need to buy that hoodie. You gotta
There's
tell
one.
me
There's
now.
one. I'm sending one right now.
I gotta support the
So
business. Where can I
yeah,
get that hoodie?
you can go to holymacathletics.com. There's a website on there. Yeah,
holymacathletics.com. Okay.
and I'll put that in my Instagram link.
Okay,
I also
great.
have an Instagram Holy Mac Athletics page where we post up all our people who support the brand.
Yeah.
So then, if you support the brand, if you wear the brand, take a photo of yourself, send it to us, and then we'll repost it on our page. So then the whole world gets to see you wearing the Holy Mac Athletics swag,
Mhm.
and we'll be praising you and jumping up and down for you.
Tell me, I remember you being at the gym, and when you were happy, you were saying it. When you were angry, you were saying it. When you were joking, you were saying it. I always used to hear, "Holy Mac." Where does that come from?
Man, this has been like a family saying since I was, could could talk. My dad used to say it. My dad would always say it. If it was good, bad, you know, it was always the same because we weren't allowed to swear.
Yeah.
So he would always say "Holy Mac," and then if I go back home now, all of my nieces and nephews are all saying it as well. So then when I came up, when I was, you know, trying to branch out on my own and trying to find a gym name, man, I was going through a list. It was probably like 2,000 names, but it just seemed corny and just wasn't me, right? So there was like one day I was just sitting at the table and I was just getting frustrated, like because I was going through so many names, and I was like, "Holy Mac!" And I was like, "What?" And it's like a light bulb just like went off, and I was like, "Holy Mac!" And then yeah, so then that's where I kind of came into, and then it stuck, and you know when I brought up the brand as well, I wanted to bring up the merch before I opened up my own gym.
Mm.
So then when so then when I released the swag back in 2015, it just went off the shelves, and it was awesome, man, because it was all the people in my local area. So everyone in my local community was on there, and they showed love and supported it, and just seeing this name that came from my family, spread. It's just awesome to see. I get random texts from people sending pictures of somebody like pumping gas with a Holy Mac shirt or walking out of McDonald's with a Holy Mac shirt, and I'm like, man, that's kind of stalkerish, isn't it? Why are you sending me? Do you know what I mean? But it's awesome. It's great to see. So then now when I open up, now that I've got my own clinic, people understand the brand,
Mm.
right? And the beauty of social media, because I put the brand out, and then people are like, oh, what's this Holy Mac? And then they look for me on social media, and then they see my training or training that I do with my athletes or with my clients or whatnot. They get to learn about who I am, and just like the authentic, you know, person as well that's behind the brand,
Mm.
right? So then when I opened this, man, it just, the gym, man, my phone just blew up. Our lines just blew up because everyone just wanted to get in. So, which was a great problem to have, and I'm appreciative of everyone that stood behind me and supported me all this way.
Fully deserved, my man. And thank you for making an appearance on the halftime show, man. Honestly, you would have thought you would have done this before after the first segment. Come on, tell me,
Wait,
tell me.
before we leave, I've been wanting to get this off my chest, man, because I kind of feel bad, like from the last 15, 20 years, but I wanted to get this off my chest. I want to say sorry for every time we trained and I was eating a cheese salmon bagel while you while you were on Ramadan. I am so sorry that
No, you're not.
when I would finish one, when I would finish one and chew at the same time when we were like when we
Don't
we're benching,
lie.
and then when I finished this, I pulled out another one and started eating the next new sandwich. So I wanted to be wanted to say that for so long, but thank you for giving me the platform to apologize openly to your audience.
You're gonna be getting so much mail.
I hope you forgive me. I hope you forgive me. I hope you forgive me.
I do forgive you. I do forgive you. And thank you for the experiences, my man. If anything, this is one episode we are gonna look back on in years to come and joke about because it was something that I, as a host, got a chance to interview you as a coach, and it was really, really fulfilling. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me on, and I appreciate everything you do. Continue to spread your love and light on everybody, and it's awesome to see. Like for me to watch you shine, man, it's amazing. It's motivating to me because now it makes me want to go hard even more. So for me to watch you because we'll both come up at the same time, and to see you over where you are in Dubai, just doing amazing things, man. Keep up the great work. You're doing
Thank
great
you.
things, and it's always love. It's always love from me. You
Thank
know
you,
that.
bro. Thank you.
And I hope your light continues to shine, my brother.
Thank you. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.